into it. Thursday, March 19th, dates burned into my brain. My phone rings 6:30 p.m. We confirmed our first on-site COVID-19 case. Inside of 3 hours, we successfully shut down both of our container terminals, cleared the facilities of all workers other than our first responders and a skeleton security staff. Definitely a first in my 16 years at Port Houston. So I'm Ryan Mariacher. I'm Director for Container Operations at Port Houston, responsible for all things at Bayport, Barbers Cut, and the operations arena. Again, thank you to the council for giving me the opportunity to tell our story, share what's going on at your port, at Port Houston. So today, I hope to leave you with a few things on how we survived the last 5 months and what our plans continue to be. Again, really interested in hearing from you. I want to make sure that I'm answering all the questions you have. We don't leave anything unturned. So number one, what's changed? From the outsider perspective, not much actually. Really, it's how are we operating, not what are we doing. So first and most importantly, cargo is still moving. When the pandemic first came upon us, in the March timeframe, there seemed to be rampant concern across industry partners that freight would come to a screeching halt, oil would skyrocket, gridlock would result, and we'd just be in a world of panic. We actually haven't seen that at Port Houston in the container arena specifically. In fact, both import and export dwell has decreased fairly significantly and been constant since February. Still working vessels, still working trucks, still trying to keep things moving. Everything we do at the container terminals revolves around cargo velocity, truck velocity, vessel velocity. So trying to keep things moving as smoothly as possible. So with that, at Port Houston, we are a service provider. That's what we do every day, is provide a service to various different customers and stakeholders in the logistics chain. So we differentiate ourselves by providing quality, consistent, reliable service. And service levels have actually stayed consistent and actually in some cases improved. Vessel productivity, surprisingly, is actually up a few fractions of a move per hour, which is good. Truck turn time continues to fall, less than 40 minutes all in, with less than 5 minutes of queue time in front of our gate doors. And this is something that we continue to strive to achieve no matter the volume that we see each and every day.
Look, my microphone's on.
Our CapEx and facility expansions are continuing on schedule, continuing to execute our build-out plans and our renovation strategies to stay ahead of the demand curve. And we're continuing efforts to increase our market share, both operationally and commercially. Safety has been a long-standing core value at Port Houston. Over the last 5 months, we've learned this means a lot of different things. Primary focus continues to be protecting our essential workforce. We talk a lot about what that means to us, what we've learned, and how that process has really evolved. So number one, protecting the essential workforce. No one likes to be referred to as unessential, but it's just the terminology that we've kind of adopted internally to kind of put our people into buckets, and our unessential people are support staff that actually don't have to be on site to do their job. And this makes up about 2/3 of our workforce. So we still have a lot of people that are showing up every day: maintenance technicians, ops managers, logistics personnel, of course, port police, fire department, that look after us and our facilities 24/7. We can't operate without those folks being there, being an integral part to the success of our organization and our facilities. And also, we have various different employers, stakeholders, our ILA workforce, the boots on the ground that are actually getting the job done. So what did we do? Well, as we were looking for a playbook to guide us through all the threats known and unknown to COVID, the best thing we found to rely on were CDC guidelines. Sometimes this has been frustrating as the guidelines continue to evolve, as more is learned and more is learned about the virus, more is learned about best practices. But we've been consistent in this area, always relying on CDC guidelines at every step of the way. Has it helped to eliminate and isolate 100% the problem? No. But it's again given us a strategy to implement layers of protection. And as I talk more about this is what I'm really going to focus on, is how do we add layers on layers of protection. So simply, there's no silver bullet, there's no magic response. So the layers of protection strategy seems to be what's been working best for us and has allowed us to stay open since the closure in mid-March. So what have we done? First and foremost, when you come to Port Houston facilities, you're greeted a little bit differently. In April, we began temperature screenings at all entry points at Port Houston operated facilities. This includes terminal access points, buildings, turnstiles, Port Houston staff, tenants, contractors, Customs and Border Protection, and other federal officers are all required to adhere to this screening in order to get access. The screening's simple, it's contactless, takes less than just a few seconds. I've been screened dozens and dozens of times. We got a specific written protocol that we follow in the case of a high temp reading to ensure that we're not turning anyone away that shouldn't be turned away, and we're capturing every single person that should be turned away. So anyone who reads a temp of 100.4 or higher is sent home. Again, CDC requirements. Anyone who reads 100 degrees or higher is retested several times to make sure they're okay or not okay. Now you may be thinking, well, this doesn't help with asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic people. And you're right, it doesn't. But it gives the workers that are coming in just that added level of confidence that they're working next to people that are healthy. And again, the idea being layers and layers of protection. So what else have we done? Well, it's a long laundry list of things that we've added over the last several weeks, but I'll hit on a few key items. We have sanitation stations all over the place, in every single work area, high traffic areas, access points. We've increased our cleaning schedules of all our facilities. This is an obvious one. We've gone from weekly cleanings to daily cleanings, and in some areas multiple times a day. We do a weekly full disinfectant of all work areas and high traffic areas. We have weekly collaboration calls with all of our site employers and tenants, making sure that we're all staying on the same page, making sure if we're missing anything, if we could do something better, that we kind of get it all out on the table. And that's been a really helpful process to make sure that we're really meeting the needs of everyone. And again, focusing on protecting the essential workforce and giving everyone they need to feel as safe as possible to do their jobs. So we've reduced occupancy for worker transport as we take folks from parking areas to the work sites. Masks and face coverings have been required at all of our facilities. At our truck gates, we've disabled trouble kiosks to try to help reduce the congregation of people in small areas. We've used a remote trucker hotline as the main access point for all of our trouble transactions and general assistance to the trucking community. This has been a change, but it's actually been well adopted by the trucking community. They've appreciated all the efforts there. See, earlier in the year, actually, we we rolled out a biometric screening process, and we were doing it through a pilot program to slowly adapt it. And the idea was to improve the security screening process. In March, we kind of canceled the project, or reined it back in rather, because we were having some problems with the biometric screenings, and it was creating more problems than it was helping fix. Did a lot of work in the background, got it up and running the way it should be. And we've since kicked that back off, and it's been a big win. Also, we're required to do screenings by Coast Guard for various vehicles entering our facilities. We've adjusted that to try to be as hands off while still achieving the directive as we can. Then, of course, Department of Homeland Security has placed restrictions on ship's crew, which everyone knows about. And also, we've tried to eliminate ride sharing in terminal vehicles as much as possible. Sometimes that's not possible, especially with a lot of our maintenance technicians as they work in pairs. But voluntary rides are acceptable, and as often as possible, we put people in their own vehicle. So what else? Well, we've also instituted staggered shifts with our essential workforce where we can do it, trying to alternate people working, so in case something does happen, everyone's not impacted. We've rearranged workstations, spreading people out, with 2/3 of our workforce telecommuting right now. Got a lot of space to kind of spread people out. So as we've been trying to create this collaborative environment and bring people together, over the last 5 months, we've actually done the reverse and spread people out. We've gotten smarter at working remotely. Our IT group really stepped up and provided us with various different methods of internal and external collaboration. I don't know about everyone out there, but I've gotten really used to meetings over Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, you name it. We're on Big Marker right now, and it's not quite the same as being in a room together. But our IT department really stepped up to the plate and accelerated a lot of the projects that we had in the pipeline, so we could work as best as possible remotely, and again, not putting our essential workforce in further harm's way. Talked earlier about, hey, once you walk up to a Port Houston facility, it's going to look a little different. Well, you're not walking up to a Port Houston facility necessarily right now, and we really hate that because personally, I love hosting visitors of all kinds to educate them on the great things that are going on at the public port. It's tough, but as soon as we can, we're gonna obviously reopen doors and look forward to having visitors. But in the meantime, this is the opportunity that we have to share what's going on. So what does happen when a positive case is reported, and it continues to happen and will continue to happen? And so we perform a thorough investigation, including contact tracing, notify everyone that's been a part of it. And then the most important part probably is the level of transparency that our executive leadership has had from the very beginning. Anytime there is a positive case, at the completion of the investigation, which happens, the first few took half a day, if not longer, we've been able to condense that down into a couple hours, if not less than an hour. But that level of transparency, that level of openness to the entire staff has been invaluable, as we've gotten feedback from our employees about just being in the know of what's going on, understanding when it happens, what was the response, what was done, all those things. And again, it's been well received, because to kind of step through all these things, we have yet to be able to eliminate the threat, but again, providing layers and layers and layers of protection we found it to be the best strategy to continue to operate our facilities and keep freight moving, which is the ultimate goal. So year to date, we're actually nearing about $3 million spent on COVID response countermeasures to protect the workforce. And obviously, all our practices are going to continue. And as we learn more, we'll change. We'll evolve, adapt, and do what needs to be done to continue our facility's safe operation. So with that, kind of take a step back and give you a high-level update on Port Houston business. So total tonnage through the first half of 2020, we were down about 5%, handling almost 21 million tons. Our general cargo breakbulk volumes were down significantly, about 18%. Steel, being our largest commodity in the general cargo sector, accounted for only just over 1 million tons, down 45%. And to an extent, this was expected. The soft energy sector, trade policy, tariffs, and all the craziness is going on, well before pandemic hit us. And then obviously, what we're talking about today, with reactions to the pandemic and the changes of business, a lot of this was not unexpected. Container volume through the same period, down 2%. Actually, through July, we're down 3%. 41 blank sailings have hit our schedules from March through September. But, on a good note, vessel calls are actually up about 3.5% through July, thanks to additional services that our ocean carrier customers have added to our portfolio. But, it's not all bad news. It's not all doom and gloom. Houston and the greater Gulf Coast has been somewhat isolated from the major downturn of trade in the U.S. As you look across the U.S. container trades down anywhere between 9 to 11%, based on what region you're looking at. So we'll come back to that shortly to give you a better perspective of what's going on, what our expected outlook is. But what have we done from a commercial perspective? So our longstanding philosophy is we don't want to profit or take advantage of those struggling through this situation, just like we don't want to profit off of a hurricane or something that's outside of control of any one entity. And with this, we're all struggling through it together. So our focus remains: how do we support our customers, all of our stakeholders, all of our users, to create an environment where containers, general cargoes, freight of all kinds just continues to flow with the least amount of hurdles necessary. So when we do come out the other side, whenever that is, whatever that looks like, we've got even a stronger relationship than we had before with all of our stakeholders. So in April, our Port Commission approved a COVID relief program. And what does this mean? Well, essentially, it's got three main parts. We made extensions to our payment terms. So credit terms are extended for all cargo and container customers, and tenant leases for an additional 30 days. We added storage time to the container terminals. Free time was extended by 3 days on imports. Regular shipments, this means 7 days to 10 days. Any import that has a government inspection went from 10 to 13 days. And then those needing support for high dwelling containers on the import or export side, really either way, we've been committed to working with the carriers, the shippers, whoever needs some help about finding some off-dock sea-wise solutions for those long dwelling containers. With our general cargo volumes being down, we have some acreage in our portfolio that's available. We don't want to create a gridlock scenario inside the container yards, as we're so service focused, but we do have some opportunities there. Then lastly, rate freezes. So all of our ocean carriers that have signed marine terminal services agreements with us are provided the opportunity for a volume incentive discount. And as we go through the evaluation timeframes, one of those came up in the middle of all this. We just froze everything. If the volume went up and you got a higher discount, we didn't change. You know, we still afforded that, but no one's rate increased. And all these programs will be going through the end of the month, with the rate being consistent through the end of the year. And we'll be presenting this again to our board commission later this month for continued adoption. So back to the business outlook. So I mentioned earlier, you know, our year-to-date volumes are down, but we are seeing some encouraging trends. I know our executive director has been quoted both in public meetings and in several publications about this. And, you know, I'm not here to tell you that everything is over and things are back to quote unquote normal, whatever that means now. But, you know, we are seeing some encouraging trends, and I'll tell you what we see. So far, we've got about 10 extra loaders through our Trans-Pacific trade lane calling in Q3, with potentially more on the horizon. We've seen a recent uptick in gate activity. In July, we actually averaged about 9,000 daily transactions at the container terminals. We hadn't seen that since February, pre-pandemic. This is carrying over into August. Week 32, we actually averaged just a fraction below 10,000 transactions per day. Yesterday, we surpassed 10,000 transactions per day. So, long story short, I don't really know what to expect. I don't think anyone does. If I told you, again, I would probably be wrong. But what I can say is, we're seeing some encouraging trends again. We have models that actually show us finishing ahead of 2019 volumes. Others not so much. So we're going to continue to be agile, work with all of our customers and our stakeholders, and handle really whatever volume is brought our way. Since I have your attention, I really wanted to take this opportunity to show you how we're further executing our build strategy at the Port Houston container terminals. In the last 2 years, we've invested $350 million in Bayport and Barbers Cut alone. $600 million additionally planned over the next 5 years. And these are dollars that only include projects inside the fence. We have numerous other freight mobility initiatives, other projects across all of our other facilities. Most importantly, our channel project for the Houston Ship Channel that I'll talk in detail shortly. But here you can see Barbers Cut. In 2019, Barbers Cut handled over 1 million TEU. The expansion build-out plan that you see below takes the facility north of 2.4 million TEU. So the dark shaded areas on top are completed projects, including container yard and 2 segments of dock. Yellow are underway, additional container yard, additional dock expansion or renovation rather, for larger Neo-Panamax ship-to-shore cranes, and a new gate complex that will double our lane capacity and truck capacity as we continue to densify the facility. Green areas are under design. Blue indicate our projects identified in our 5-year plan, and purple is included in the build-out strategy in our future projects. Moving on to Bayport, you can see a similar project plan. You can see what's already in production. And then the same plan moving forward. Yellow projects are underway, including a container yard, 50 acres on the west side, a container yard being developed by one of our tenants on the southeast corner. We're actually renovating tie downs to provide the foundation for larger ship-to-shore cranes. Recall we opened Bayport in 2007. The docking cranes were spec'd out in the early 2000s when the largest vessel on the water was 6,500 TEU. Well, today we regularly see 10,000 plus TEU vessels with larger vessels on the way as the ship channel improvements come online. So we need to be prepared for that. So we're actually just over the weekend took out a segment of dock where we'll improve the tie down areas for the cranes, where we have cranes being manufactured as we speak. Green areas again under design. We're accelerating our Wharf 6 expansion, which will give us an additional 1,000 feet, give us 5,000 total feet of dock space. Essentially 4 1,250-foot berthing areas for larger vessels, additional CY with the blue indicating our 5-year plan for execution, docks and container yard, with the eastern portion of the facility highlighted in purple. That would be, again, continued expansion to add capacity to Bayport. So in 2019, Bayport handled about 1.7 billion TEU, and our full roadmap all in, as you can see these two slides highlighted, 2040, takes us somewhere around 7 million TEU annually. We'll see how long it takes us to get there. It could be as early as the late 2030s or somewhere after 2040, but that continues to be our focus and our build-out strategy. So lastly, I would really be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to update you on the largest, most important infrastructure project that impacts the entire region. And that's the next phase of the deepening and widening of the Houston Ship Channel, as we call it, Project 11. Why do we call it Project 11? Well, over the last 100 years, the Ship Channel has had 10 major improvements, facilitating trade and allowing it to become the nation's busiest waterway. Since 1996, been the #1 international in trade tonnage. So in early 2010s, we identified further expansion was necessary to support the 200 plus public and private facilities along the ship channel. Last year, a 4-year study in coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers was completed. So we've put up $28 million in design contracts to accelerate the project. The traditional federal timeline, best case scenario, this project could be completed by 2030. We just can't wait that long. Us as an industry, we need these improvements today. We need two-way traffic. We need to be able to support larger vessels for the petrochemical industry, for the container industry, for everyone that has an interest in the ship channel. So with our work in accelerating the program, our current schedule shows the project could be completed as early as 2024. So what will Project 11 do? You can see the details on the slide here, but essentially Project 11 widens the Houston Ship Channel from the current 530 feet wide to 700 feet in the Bay Reach. So that's the pink, purple, and red areas. And then further inland, deepening the channel upstream, some segments as far down as 45 feet. So this is estimated at $1 billion project, shared between federal government, Port Houston, private companies. We're really trying to develop a new model to expedite these kind of projects and keep the channel at the right configuration it needs to be to support everyone's business. So the key takeaways here, in April of this year, the Army Corps of Engineers Chief Report was signed, which was a huge first step. The U.S. House passed Word of 2020, and now we're awaiting final approval from the Senate. So if all things stay on track, we're pointed in that direction. First dirt could be moved as early as Q1 of next year. So that's really what I had to share today. I hope I gave you some insight into what we're doing to battle the pandemic. From the outside looking in, it really hasn't changed much. We've changed how we're operating and done a lot of things to try to isolate and protect workers and protect the movement of cargo so we can keep things again, from the outsider's perspective and to all our stakeholders as normal as possible. I continue to use that word normal. I don't know what it means anymore, but that's really our goal. I want to thank Rita, Jake, John, everyone at the council for giving me the opportunity to visit with you today. Again, I look forward to the time when we can do these kind of things in person and really, have some worthwhile discussions. But for now, thank you, and I look forward to any questions, concerns you may have, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.